Hey everybody! Today I want to share an experiment with you. The other day I was going through my fabric stash and I came across some organza. And I thought, it would be really great to have beeswax food wrap that you could see through. So I'm going to try and wax this and we'll see what's going to happen. When I was thinking about it, I was thinking that, one of the problems with it might be that the wax globs up in areas and it's hard to spread around. So what I did to start was I melted some wax formula onto the parchment paper, so it's kind of already got a base of it. Now I'm going to put my organza onto the parchment paper and fold the top sheet up. Okay. I've got my iron here. It's already all warmed up and it's at synthetic settings. So it's about 200 degrees. It might be a little bit too hot. So we'll see how this goes. Okay. Are you ready? I'm so excited. Okay, here we go. And so I'm just moving the iron around on the parchment paper. So basically I have my organza sandwiched between two pieces of parchment paper that I've pre-melted the wax formula onto. So here you can see that the wax that was pre-melted is melting in and coming through. Okay, well this is very exciting. Okay, so I'm just gonna pull the top sheet back and we'll see how this looks. Okay, so it's stuck onto the top part. So you can see there's a little bit of wax on it. Not quite even yet. Okay, so now I'm going to try and put the wax formula directly onto the organza. And we'll see how that melts out and spreads around. But I quite liked how that worked with pre-melting the wax onto the fabric, onto the parchment paper. So we're going to just add a little bit more. The mix formula that I'm using is beeswax, pine resin, jojoba oil, and I also include orange peel wax in my mix, and that does a couple of things. One of them is kind of interesting. It seems to me that the orange peel wax seems to help to get the wax into the fiber better. It seems to wax better when it's got the orange peel in it. And it also smells really nice. So here we go. I think we've got lots on now. Okay, so now I'm going to just fold the parchment back on top. Just like that. And I'm going to melt it again. So I'm starting at the bottom of the piece. And I don't want to move the organza around too much until it's been melted and will stay in place. So I'm just going to move the iron a little bit at a time to start melting it. And I think you can see the melting spots already. I'm going to turn this up a little bit more and see. Every iron is a little bit different, and definitely some of them heat up to different temperatures at different settings. So on this iron, I think the synthetic might be a tiny bit too low. It's probably less than maybe on a different iron. I like to pick up my irons usually at Value Village. They're usually in good shape and they don't cost very much money. And that way, if they get wrecked with the wax, it's not a big deal. Okay, so we're getting some progress here. We can see that it's melting the wax in quite nicely. I'm really excited to see if this is going to work. And then afterwards, we're going to try and cover a bowl. And that'll be exciting, right? That's a great thing to do on a Thursday morning in January. Wax fabric and cover bowls. Okay. So there's still some lumps here you can see on the side here. All right, so we're continuing to wax on. The tricky thing about doing the iron on larger pieces of fabric, whether it's organza or regular cotton, is that often the wax starts to harden and solidify before you get the whole thing off of the parchment paper. So what I like to do is I like to keep the whole thing warm by really giving it a big swoop around with the iron so that it stays hot. And I think I've got some more, yeah, I've still got some pieces here that are not melted yet. So I'm just gonna keep going. Okay. You can see that it's melting through. It's something kind of exciting and zen-like. Hey, oh, another one there. It's not melted yet. And it's starting to leak out on the edges. Good thing I don't have my fancy sewing iron attached on here. Okay, so this is kind of neat. Ooh. All right, so we still have a few spots that need the wax on it. But this is looking pretty good. This is looking much better. Very interesting. You can see, Okay, so I'm just gonna finish waxing it up a little bit more. So I'm just gonna keep waxing it. I think if I was worried about getting too much wax on my iron, I would just add another piece of parchment paper on top. Okay. And this would probably be a lot easier if I was starting out with a smaller piece of organza. My piece is about 9 by 9 inches, and that's probably too big for what I'm doing as an experiment. I should have probably cut it down to a 6 by 6 size. All right. Okay. So I'm going to just pull that off. Okay, so most of it is done, but it appears that this edge here at the top is not done. So I'm just going to add a little bit more wax onto it, and we'll see how that's going to turn out. These little ones are good because they have the little blocks to them. They're like little squares. So I can easily break them into nice small pieces. Okay, and one on that corner there. And I'll put a couple more down here too. It looks like it needs it. Well, I'll just put a few more on it anyways, hey? Okay. All right, here we go. Third time's the charm, right? Okay. Ironing my future. So that's melting in quite nicely. There we go, and it's melting quite nicely. We'll see how this turns out. I'm pretty excited about this. I'm really, really interested. And especially for the opportunity to see how a synthetic waxes up. Because I've always found that the best fabric is a natural fiber. Using cotton or bamboo. And I actually have a stack of other fabrics that I'm going to show you how they wax up. I really thought it was worthwhile to experiment with our materials. And so I cut out some t-shirt fabric, and I cut out some some mesh, because I think that might work really, really well, especially for foods that need to breathe. Okay, this is looking good. A little bit chunky in the corner there. Okay, we'll do it one more time. Just a little bit more wax. You know what else might work really well? Is if you took a piece of cotton fabric that had lots of wax already on it, and then you laid the organza on top, and then you ironed it, and then maybe the transfer of the wax from the heavily waxed cotton would move up into the organza, and then that would transfer really easily. I'm going to try that next. Okay, so I'm just going to add one more piece, and maybe we'll add 2 pieces into that corner, and we'll see how that does. So just, again, letting it warm up and melt. And I will mention this while I'm here, I never put water into my irons. I always keep the steam setting off, because when I first started doing this, the steam burnt me a couple times. So, you know, once burned, twice shy, that type of thing. So, yeah, so I don't do that anymore. So I if I need any water, I just use the spray bottle to add water if I need to. But usually I use a dry iron. All right. Okay. Okay. So now I'm just, again, making sure the whole thing is all melted through. So when I lift it up from the parchment, it's not going to be too sticky. Okay, here we go. To the back, and oh, that looks really good. Okay. So it's all nicely done. I am going to try and experiment, because you can see parts of it that are less waxed than others, but just flapping it around. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and pause this for a minute, and then we'll see how it works. Stay tuned.